Now we've looked at our dog's basic needs, body language, rewards, how to get the most out of training sessions, and what to consider when setting up a training session, we're going to look now at what to do when you're not training. The reason for this is quite simple. A happy, healthy dog will be more relaxed and less energetic during training sessions if they're properly looked after and have an enriched life. Exercising a dog is important in the same way it is for humans. Leave your dog on its own all day with nothing to do, and you shouldn't be surprised if it's bouncing off the ceiling when you return to it. Lots of customers who complain to me about their dogs being too excitable with poor obedience report back that their dog is much better after they started exercising them more. How much exercise is enough though? Well, that is difficult to answer, and it will of course depend on the size and the health of your dog. But from a starting point, at least one long walk a day for over an hour should be a minimum. If you don't have time to do this, then reduce the time but increase the number of walks. Larger, more agile dogs will tend to need more exercise, and if it's not possible to walk the dog on certain days, then there are other ways of tiring out dogs, so substitute these instead of the walk. The take-home message here should be, if you're not walking the dog, then substitute this with a different enriching activity. It might go against the grain to say it, but try not to feel guilty if you're unable to take your dog out for a walk. Why am I saying this when lots of people say we should feel guilty? Well, it's because the feeling of guilt doesn't help in a training setting, and you're likely to find the dog picks up on this and takes advantage. A bit like a child does with a guilty parent. It doesn't take them long to work out they can get that toy that they've always wanted when their parents are feeling guilty towards them. This isn't an excuse to never walk your dog, however. The benefits to both you and your dog being outdoors can't be underestimated. The outdoor environment is full of enriching smells and experiences for the dog. So when you're out with your dog, vary the route, allow the dog to stop and sniff smells and relax. All too often I see people pulling their dogs around on a walk, determined to get it done as quickly as possible. But remember, the walk is for your dog too. Other enriching activities that will help tire out the dog when a walk isn't possible, or in fact as well as a good long walk, can include some of the following: playing fetch, frisbee catching, playing tug with rope toys, agility exercises, obstacle course exercise or something like flyball for example, are all different ways of helping your dog meet that exercise need. A word of caution though, dogs that show unwanted behaviours such as chasing for example can see this behaviour exacerbated by carrying out games like fetch. Likewise, tug might not be appropriate for dogs who bite or nip at their owners, but they are a great way of building confidence in a non-confident dog. So it's important here to reflect on the behaviour and the emotional state of a dog and pick the correct activity to avoid unwanted behaviours becoming worse. I've found that by far and away the best way of tiring out a dog has to be to engage its nose in activities and fun games. Customers who attend my scent discrimination classes have told me that their dogs are far more tired out than when they've attended obedience classes. The power of a dog's nose is truly amazing. I've gazed in wonder at our search and rescue dogs when they pick up a human smell from nearly half a kilometre away. It never gets old watching them turn on a sixpence and run towards that smell that they're targeting down. It's exhilarating to see your dog's nose flick up in the air as they pick up the smell on the wind. One of my most memorable finds was with my search dog Jake on the beach. I watched his nose pick up as we walked along the beach, and I saw him take off, making just small adjustments in the direction as he honed in on his target. He raced away for almost 200 metres through a busy beach which must have been full of different smells. Thinking he was going to come back and indicate he'd found a missing person whilst I was on holiday was slightly concerning, to say the least, but as I finally caught up with him, he was in the final stages of locating his quarry. It was evident that Jake had found his second favourite smell. He'd managed to find the smallest piece of rubber ball. I was amazed at how well his nose works. He'd managed to pick up that smell from what must have been 200 metres away, and the piece of ball was about the size of a 5-pence piece, in an environment that was just full of different smells. It isn't just search dogs that are capable of searching and discriminating between smells either. I've seen all different shapes and sizes and ages of dogs learn to search for and find the correct target smell in both classroom settings and outdoors. In addition to this, the other thing that is apparent when dogs are searching is that it takes a huge amount of focus. I've seen dogs who previously been unhappy in a room full of other dogs later go on to search past them, the same dogs, seemingly oblivious to the fact that the other dogs are there. It's like they have a switch that says, I'll ignore that because at the moment I'm playing my fun sniffing game. It's this focused concentration that mentally tires the dogs whilst hunting down a smell. A good scent work session can make a dog nearly as tired as taking them out for a long street walk. Check out the scent discrimination module for more lessons on how to get a dog to search for smells, specific smells. But in the meantime, there are loads of other different activities that a handler can do with their dogs whilst helping to unlock their nose. Activities like hide and seek, where an item is hidden from the dog or the handler themselves hides. Feeding by throwing food out onto a grassy area or snuffle mat, or using a snuffle mat or a puzzle bowl. Hiding treats around a room, or change the location of the dog's feeding bowl and encourage them to find it. Which hand? Ask the dog to find which hand the treat is in. Using upturned boxes or flower pots to hide treats. Increase the difficulty here by using one treat under one of the pots and training the dog to indicate on the correct pot, maybe sitting before you release the treat. Find a family member in the house or whilst out on walks. Find a toy in long grass. Find perhaps a dropped item whilst on the walk, a dropped hat or keys for example, and get the dog to go back and find them. Start off easy here first, don't use your car keys and find that you're then stranded on a walk. Following a laid trail of treats is a good one. As you get more experience, you can ask friends to lay the treats for you and get your dog to follow those treats. Finally, you could play perhaps search dog related games, such as getting somebody to run off a small distance, dropping down to the ground with a favourite toy, and then getting the dog to run after them to play with the toy. Then you could perhaps get somebody to hide and pop up with a toy, shout for your dog before dropping down and then getting your dog to go and find them. Practicing these games regularly and the handler should notice that the dog becomes more efficient at completing them, and the dog should realise the potential of their nose. Of course, the only problem with opening and unlocking the dog's nose potential is that dogs become really adept at picking up smells so much better whilst out on walks, and walks can become more interrupted. You can also find yourself being pulled up the street to somebody's discarded banana peel, for example. Another way to keep your dog entertained is to give them puzzles to solve. Now, I'm not talking about the crossword, you can't finish here, but there are a number of other toys that you can get on the market which require your dog to work out how to open a container, for example, to get treats from inside it, or work out how to get treats from a ball dispenser, for example. Obviously, such toys should be generally given to your dog under supervision. The last thing you want is for your dog to swallow something that they shouldn't. There are plenty of websites that show you how to make your own puzzle toys using bottles, putting treats in those, or plastic PVC piping, for example, or hanging a rope up for your dog to jump and grab hold of. Some of the more simpler methods include perhaps filling soft toys with treats or tennis balls with treats. Some of these toys are ideal for leaving with your dog when you're out, when you've got to go out. A frozen Kong filled with treats and soft food can keep a dog entertained for hours until the owner returns. Freezing carrots or other dog-safe vegetables is another way of giving your dog something to do while you're not about. Out of all the dogs I've walked, it's evidence that most of the well-grounded, less anxious ones are those where the owners have left them with enrichment toys like this. Allowing a dog to mix with other dogs is a great way of keeping them entertained and enriches their lives. Attending well-run puppy or training classes also helps teach dogs valuable canine skills. That said, socialising a dog with other dogs is something which should be done with care. One of the mistakes most people make is insisting that their dogs meet every other dog that they come across. The problem with this is that not all dog-to-dog greetings go well. If not done in a controlled manner, dogs can end up becoming anxious every time they come across other dogs if they've had previously bad experiences. The same can be said for humans too. In fact, the old adage of how you feel travels down your lead can be seen in practice all too often when dog owners are fearful of other dogs. It doesn't take long for their dog to respond to this anxiety. I'm amazed by customers who tell me that their dog doesn't like a Staffordshire Bull Terrier, for example. When I inquire further, asking, "Do you like them?" they always reply, "No, I don't." This is normally because of a fear generated by a misunderstanding that not all dogs are aggressive because of their breed. What the owner has done here is labelled the dog as aggressive based on the breed label. Here is a prime example of why labelling dogs isn't helpful. After I explain to the customer that your dog is showing signs of anxiety towards the Staffordshire Bull Terrier because every time you see one you're tensing up and becoming fearful yourself, your dog is reacting to your body language that you're portraying towards the other dog, and this is what's meant by your feelings travelling down the lead. Nearly all dog-to-dog meetings would end in a positive, non-aggressive manner if humans were not involved in the process. Two dogs who follow the usual canine greeting manoeuvre will either decide to move away from each other or go on to play with each other. The trouble is that either the lead gets in the way of the manoeuvre or the handler pulls them away at the wrong time, increasing pressure around the dog's neck by yanking a lead, for example, and that causes the dogs to panic and react in a more aggressive way. So, when socialising dogs, it's always best to do this using a dog that you already know and one that you're already comfortable with, and this will increase the chances of a good greeting. Building up a number of greetings in this way will show your dog that other dogs are fun and safe to be around and reduce any negative experiences. If a greeting does go bad and the experience becomes a negative one, it's important to put this out of your mind and not immediately think that it's going to happen again with a different dog or a different dog but the same breed. Using a watch me command when you're out for a walk gives you time to assess other dogs walking towards you in a street, and that helps you to decide whether you want your dog to be greeting that dog or not. In my opinion, it isn't necessary to have your dog greet every dog it comes across. Managing greetings with a watch me will help reduce your dog from pulling and getting too excited every time it sees another dog in the street. That brings us to the end of this 5-part module, so let's just summarise what we've been through. In part 1 we looked at the basics, so let's just remember back some of the important points from that. Don't label your dog, it's not helpful to your relationship. Dogs have 4 basic needs: food and water, shelter and security, play and reproduction. Production of hormones due to increased stress can influence your dog's ability to learn or concentrate on you. And in part 2 we looked at dogs' body language. Learning to read your dog's body language will help you to understand how they feel. Learn to use your own body language to keep your dog relaxed and show them that you're pleased or that you're not pleased. Use consistent body language signs to improve learning of commands. Use a watch me command to improve your dog's focus on you. Dogs learn by association, repeating actions that produce a positive outcome for them. In part 3 we looked at rewards. So if we remember back, think of rewards as a scale. Choose the correct one for the task being taught. Make sure that the rewards outweigh any distractions present, and combine rewards to improve the overall reward experience. In part 4 we looked at setting up training sessions. So if we remember back on this, we need to ensure that increased stress doesn't reduce the ability to learn. We need to remember that increased anxiety or excitement leads to that hormone release, which can then diminish the ability to learn. Increased stress or excitement levels can also lead to auditory exclusion or temporary hearing loss. Plan your training sessions well to get the most out of them. Remember, dogs don't generalise very well. Be mindful of different variables when you're training and try to keep things consistent as much as possible. In part 5, we looked at what to do when you're not training. Remember to keep your dog well exercised to reduce excess energy when you are training. There are lots of activities to improve the bond between yourself and your dog, including physical and mental activities. Scent activities that use your dog's nose will help focus your dog's mind, improve the bond between you and your dog, and help to mentally tire your dog. Stay calm and confident. Emphasis should be to have fun and to improve the bond between the dog and the handler. Thank you for listening to the Dog Gym Training Foundation course. That concludes the series. But check out our website and Facebook page for announcements about upcoming training courses. The next training course to be released soon will be the Basic Obedience, and we're going to follow that session by an Advanced Obedience, and then we're going to follow that with some scent discrimination training. So visit our website at doggymtraining.co.uk or follow us on Facebook at Dog Gym Training, where we'll be telling you more about these upcoming training courses. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you found this training useful and you're now able to develop a fantastic, wonderful bond between you and your dog. That's all for now. Take care. Best wishes, Jim.